Okay, so we're going to get started here with this indoor-outdoor bench project. It's for a student that was looking for a project, and so we're just going to make a step-by-step video on how to help them out with that. Now, this bench could be used both indoors or outdoors just because of the type of material we're using. We're going to try to stick with 2x4s and possibly some 2x6s for the top. So to start with, I've already made my leg. The leg is a 2x4. Remember, 2x4s are 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and we made this one so that it is 17.25 tall. Next thing I did was I created a guideline that was 11.5 inches over from the outside edge, and that's going to help us to copy our leg. So now we're going to copy our leg from the left side of it straight on over on that red axis to where it meets that guideline. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create some guidelines to show where our cross pieces are going to go. So having a little bit of trouble with that, I'm going to zoom in a little bit with my zoom extents. I'm going to have this raised up, let's say 3 inches. So we're going to go 3 inches up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put 2x4 in, so we're going to go 3.5, comma 8.5. And we're going to push that piece back 1.5 inches, the thickness of a 2x4. We're going to then make that a component. Remember, anytime you make a piece, you need to make it a component. I'm going to call this cross piece. I'm going to create that. Now, next thing, personally, I think this would look a little bit nicer if we set this in a little bit. So we're going to click on our Move tool, and we're going to hit our arrow so it only moves, oops, on the green axis, and we're going to move it over. Let's go 1 inch in. Alright, now that we've got that leg and that cross piece in, and we've set it in a little ways, I think it was 1 inch, we're going to now make this a group. Oops. Silly thing. There we go, so we select it all. Right click, make group. Now it's all one. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this from the outside. Actually, let's create a guideline. So we're going to go from this edge all the way over this way, and we're going to have that be 51 inches long. Now we're going to copy this across to this point right there. So we copied that across. Now we're going to flip this one around. So right click, flip along, and we're going to flip it along groups green. So that's the axis that it's along. Oops. Try that again, maybe with the space bar. So click on it, right click, flip along, groups green.
Does it mean it's 2 inches close?
So now the next thing, we're going to zoom extents out of this. We will put a 2x4 across from this top edge down, and we're going to go 3.5, comma 1.5, enter. We're going to pull that across to the other one on edge, perfect. Then we're going to make it a component. Call this top cross piece. You can call them whatever you want, doesn't really matter. Across. Now we're going to copy that across to the other side. Now we're going to orbit around. We're going to add another 2x4 stretcher that's going to go across. So let's go 1.5, comma 3.5. Enter, pull that across all the way out to the other one. make that a component. Call it a stretcher. Great. We're going to copy that across to the other side, like so. And then we're going to actually have that another copy of that. No, actually, it's going to be a little different because we pushed that one in. We're going to have one across the middle at the bottom. So this is kind of the tricky part. We need to find the center of that cross piece, create some guides. So there's the midpoint. And I'm going to go back the opposite direction, 3/4, which is half of a 2x4 thickness. And we'll go the other way, 3/4 as well. Now we're going to add one more in here, just to show where that's going. And draw our 2x4 in, pull that across, extends to that edge, make that a component, call that bottom stretcher.
Miss Glass, would you call?
And there's our main base. The other thing that we can do now is this student was wanting some supports, diagonal supports, which is a good idea. This gets kind of tricky. So for this piece, we're going to start off just with a 2x4 over in space. We're going to go 1.5, comma 3.5, enter. We're going to pull that piece up, and I'm just going to make it extra long. So let's go 4 feet, enter. It's going to be way too long. That's all right. Next, we're going to get our protractor tool out of our large tool set. We're going to make 2 points. We're going to put a 45-degree angle across that piece. Draw a line from corner to corner, and then push that back. Now that we've pushed that back, I'm going to make this a component, even though the other end's not done yet. It's not the right length. It's just going to make it easier for us in the long run. We'll call that diagonal create. Now this is where it can get a little tricky. We're going to rotate this piece. We're going to get our rotate tool, pick 2 points on the red axis. We need to have that turn red. 1, 2. We're going to turn it 45 degrees. Hit enter. Alright, now that we got that, we're going to bring that on over. So I'm going to grab it at this top corner. We're going to line that corner up like so. And you'll notice it's got a little bit of a gap there, and that's okay. If we wanted to, we could push these in over, or we can just simply fasten the top of this brace to the seat that it's going to attach to. Or we could put a filler piece in there, but this is probably good enough the way it is. So then, I'm going to get the guideline over, make sure that lines up. Hard time with that, so I can change my view. And there we go. Just going to see what that measurement is. Oh, right there. There we go. We'll erase that first guideline. Now that we've got one guideline touching it, we're then going to go across like so. We now have a point to draw across. Oh, and you know what? We need to do this while editing the component. So we're going to draw that piece, push that through, and get rid of that top part. That's why it didn't matter how long we made this. Perfect. Alright, next thing that we're going to do then is we're going to copy that. Now if we didn't want it to end right there if we wanted to end up in the middle. We could figure out what angle that's going to be and play around with it a bit more, but I think this is going to be just fine as is. So there again, we're going to copy this now to the other side. I'm going to put it on the complete opposite side of that lower stretcher. Oops. Forgot to hit my control key. Copy. Orbit around. Remember, if you switch to any of your zoom tools, you don't lose where you're at. There we go, and it's not quite right, so we're going to flip along. Components green. Actually, let's try flip along. So I just undid that by Control Z. Flip along. Components red. Nope. So this one doesn't want to flip for us. Control Z that again. We're going to have to rotate it. So when we rotate it, we're going to make sure it's blue. We're going to rotate it around 2 points. We're going to rotate it 180 degrees. Now we can place that in. Like so. Should be even.
Excuse the interruption, everybody. If I could get you to just listen up for a moment before we have to go home soon for the weekend. So.
Okay, next thing, we're gonna clip off a little bit of this piece that's sticking down below. So we're gonna edit one of those components, doesn't matter which one, and we are going to push that through after we draw a line. Draw a line right there. Push that back and off. Spacebar, close the component, and there's our base, which is completely the hardest part of this project. So zoom out a little. We're gonna make this a giant group before we add our top on.
Want to be like 55.
Now that we made that a group, we're gonna make our top off to the side.
53, 55.
Okay, so we're going to make off to the side. Try this again. We're going to put a piece of, we can either do this with 3/4 inch pine shelving material, or we can do this with 2x6s and so forth. Just to keep this simple, let's do 2x6s. Joined on. So we're going to go 2x6s are 5.5 wide, so 5.5, comma 54 inches. We're going to pull that up 1.5 inches, or 2x6. We're going to make that a component. Call it top board. Create. Edit that component. Actually, we don't need to edit that component. We're going to make a guideline on it from the bottom. And we have an 1.5 inch overhang, so we just need to mark out on one end. 1.5, enter. And then we're also going to mark an 1.5 inch this way as well. That's our overhang all the way around this project. And we're going to move this piece from that intersection. So we just need to select it first. Get our move tool, move it. We're going to orbit up and place it at this corner. Come on, Sketchup. A little harder with no external mouse. Oh, we had it. Ah, darn it. Grab it at that point again. Try it this time. Orbit. Place. Like so. There we go. And then we're going to put a 2x4 in between with this one. Come on. Change my view, I guess. So we'll go 1.5, comma, 54, enter. We're going to pull that across. 3.5, so we're going to have a 2x4 in the middle. Make that a component. 2x4 top. Create. And then lastly, select that outside 2x6. Copy that across. And it should look like that. And then of course we go through ahead and dimension every board that we would need and every intersection that we need in order to build this. Print it off in a little bit different ways, and away you go building. Create a parts list. And we're going to just turn off our guides. So we don't need our guides there. So we're going to go to View, uncheck our guides. We're going to uncheck our axes because we don't need those either. Zoom up, and there's the project.